In Los Angeles, California, on March 15, 1996, a case occurred when Orion Walker, a loving husband and father of 2 young children, was murdered by his wife, Marigold Fairfax, and her lover, Caspian Whitaker Marigold. And Caspian planned to murder Orion after their affair was discovered. On that fateful night, Marigold brutally murdered Orion. However, what made the case even more terrifying was that after murdering Orion, Marigold and Caspian also killed their 2 young children to keep their crime a secret. Orion Walker was born in 1966 into a modest family in Los Angeles. From a young age, he was raised with the values of hard work and responsibility. Orion grew up with a progressive spirit, always putting family and work first in life. After graduating from college with an engineering degree, he began his career in engineering and quickly proved his abilities through small but solid achievements. Orion is not someone who pursues wealth or fame. He always believes that a stable life with a good job and a happy family is his biggest goal for him. Family is the foundation of everything, and he is willing to sacrifice personal time to ensure everyone in the family is well taken care of. With all his efforts, Orion has built a fulfilling life for his family where he can be the pillar, not only financially but also spiritually. Marigold Fairfax was born in 1968 into an ordinary family. She grew up with natural confidence and attractive looks. From a young age, Marigold made a strong impression on everyone thanks to her gentle beauty and attractive demeanor. Although she comes from a poor family, she always knows how to present herself elegantly, which makes her admired by many people. In 1990, Marigold met Orion Walker at a local festival. This meeting changed her life forever. Orion, a calm, sincere, and responsible man, attracted Marigold from the first sight. The two quickly discovered similarities in their thinking and outlook on life, and feelings quickly blossomed between them. Not long after, they officially became a couple, and Orion proposed to Marigold after only a year of dating. In 1991, Marigold and Orion held a simple but intimate wedding with the presence of family and close friends. Their marriage initially went very smoothly, and they welcomed the birth of 2 children. In less than 4 years, first a girl and then a boy. Marigold, with her natural maternal instincts, takes care of her family with care and devotion. She creates an image of an ideal wife and mother, always balancing her family responsibilities and personal life in the eyes of those around them. The Marigold and Orion family is an ideal model. They lived in a small but cozy house and always exuded happiness. And Harmony Marigold always shows herself to be a perfect woman, not only through her appearance, but also through the way she takes care of her husband and children. Whenever she appears with her family, she always gives the impression of being a family woman, loving and caring for everyone. Marigold was also well liked by her friends and neighbors due to her easygoing personality and charm. Whenever the family had gatherings or festivals, Marigold was always the center of attention, and many people admired the way she maintained a happy family life. She was not only a reliable wife, but also an exemplary mother, always accompanying and teaching her children in a gentle but effective way. Orion and Marigold's married life started out very happily. Orion always tries his best to be a good husband and father. He spends most of his time working, but he also takes care of his family. Every evening he tries to get home on time so he can have dinner with his wife and children, participate in family activities such as reading to the children before bedtime or organizing picnics on the weekends. In the eyes of everyone, their family is the ideal model, with a thoughtful husband, a good wife, and 2 obedient children. However, by 1996, Marigold began to feel dissatisfied with her current life. Although Orion was a good husband, the stable and somewhat monotonous family life no longer seemed to bring her the joy she once craved. She began to feel an emptiness inside, a longing for something new, stronger, more emotional than the stable life she had. It was during this period that Marigold met Caspian Whitaker by chance at a social event. Caspian was a rich, powerful, and extremely charming man. Not only did he have great wealth, but he also possessed a confidence and charisma that Marigold had never seen in Orion. The initial meeting was merely social, but Caspian's charm soon became irresistible to Marigold. Their initial fleeting conversations gradually deepen, and their relationship quickly develops into a secret love affair. Marigold was captivated by the lavish lifestyle that Caspian provided. He took her to fancy restaurants, gave her expensive gifts, and invited her to high-class parties. Those moments made Marigold feel like she was living in a completely different world, a world of enchantment that she had never experienced before. Caspian not only provided her with external glamour, but also gave her a sense of being intensely alive, a feeling she had lacked in her marriage to Orion. Meanwhile, Orion remains unaware of Marigold's affair. He continues to work, remains devoted to his family, and thinks he is doing everything he can to keep his family happy. Orion did not realize that in his wife's heart, satisfaction with family life was gradually fading, and instead was fascination with a new life that Caspian brought. The changes in Marigold's behavior, the times she became distant, the nights she came home late, were either ignored by Orion or attributed to the stresses of life. The relationship between Marigold and Caspian becomes increasingly dangerous as they deeper into a world of adventurous love. Caspian, a powerful man, not only charms Marigold but also pushes her to disregard the bonds of marriage to Orion. He makes Marigold believe that with his wealth and influence they can live happily together without worrying about the consequences. This passion gradually creates a deep rift in the marriage between Marigold and Orion. Marigold was no longer the caring wife she had been, and whenever she was at home she felt irritable and bored. She no longer enjoyed family evenings or activities with her husband and children. Deep down, Marigold gradually distanced herself from Orion, and this distance grew larger as time went on. Even though she was married, Marigold Fairfax could not resist the intense attraction of Caspian Whitaker. At first, their relationship consisted of secret meetings in the dark. Whenever Orion was away on business, Caspian, with his wealth and power, brought Marigold a whole new world, one she had never known in her simple life. With Orion, luxurious trips, meals at fancy restaurants, and constant attention and pampering from Caspian have left Marigold infatuated. As time went on, Marigold became more and more immersed in the life of luxury and passion that Caspian promised her. Every time she met Caspian, she felt as if she was lost in another world, where she was no longer bound by family responsibilities or worries. This made her feel even more stifled when she returned to the small house with Orion and their 2 children, what had once brought Marigold contentment. Orion's stability and love now became a burden. She began to see Orion as an obstacle, holding her back in a life she no longer wanted. With encouragement and influence from Caspian, Marigold becomes increasingly determined to abandon her current life in pursuit of a different future, where she is no longer bound by Orion or her children. Caspian, an ambitious man who will do anything to achieve his goals, convinced Marigold that the only way they could be together was to eliminate Orion completely. Caspian not only enchanted Marigold with love, but also with the promise of a life filled not only with passion, but also with power and wealth. The two begin to plot a vicious plan to kill Orion and seize all of his assets. Marigold, under Caspian's influence, has gradually faded from the devoted wife and mother she once was killing. Orion is no longer unthinkable in her mind. Instead, she believes it is the only way for her to live the life she desires. Free from all family ties, Caspian succeeded in making Marigold believe that the life they had longed for would only come when Orion no longer existed. They had discussed in detail how to carry out the plan to ensure that Orion's death would look like an accident or a robbery murder. Marigold will continue to play the role of the heartbroken wife, desperate for the loss of her husband, while Caspian, with his wealth and power, will stand behind and support everything. To them, the plan seemed perfect, and once Orion was eliminated, they would have it all: wealth, power, and a new life together. On the night of March 15, 1996. As darkness fell over the Weir family's cottage, Marigold Fairfax decided to carry out the cruel plan she and Caspian Whitaker had devised. Orion Walker, after a tiring day at work, was deep in sleep, unaware that his wife was preparing to strike with a dark plot. The regular ticking of the wall clock seemed to mark the final moments of Orion's life. Marigold had prepared very carefully before going to bed. She had hidden a knife under the bed, a sharp knife that she had quietly purchased many days before when she was sure that Orion was sleeping soundly. Without any suspicion or caution, Marigold gently lifted the knife, her mind filled with only Caspian's urgings and the vision of the luxurious life she had always wanted. In a decisive moment, she no longer thought about the years of living together, no longer felt love or responsibility towards the husband who once loved her. Without hesitation, Marigold stabbed Orion multiple times fatally in the chest and abdomen. The blows were so powerful and continuous that Orion had no time to react or escape the situation. Blood from his body spread all over the bed, soaking the white sheets as Orion slowly lost his life. Marigold continued to stab him, as if she wanted to ensure that he would never have a chance to survive. After making sure that Orion was dead, Marigold stopped, looked around the room, and began to execute the next step in her plan. She rushed outside, smashing a window in the back of the house to create the appearance of a robbery. Marigold shuffled the furniture around, creating signs of a break-in and ransacking the house for valuables. She tried to make the scene look like a murder during a home invasion, but her haste and panic left many loopholes. After completing the setup, Marigold stepped outside and called the police in a panicked voice, reporting that someone had broken into the house and killed her husband. Police quickly arrived at the scene. When they arrived, they found Marigold in a state of shock and stress. She recounted her story with a shaky voice, but could not completely hide her embarrassment. However, despite her strange behavior, the police initially had no direct evidence to suspect her. They searched the entire house, but found no obvious signs of a robbery. Furthermore, the windows had been broken from the inside, and there were no other signs of violence other than in the bedroom where Orion was killed. The police began to feel that this was more than a simple break-in. However, with no concrete witnesses and no concrete evidence of Marigold's involvement, the investigation was halted and the case was put on hold. After killing Orion, Marigold continued her life with Caspian, but she had to keep things a secret. They could not immediately make their relationship public for fear of arousing suspicion from the police and the surrounding community. However, hiding is not the only thing that worries Marigold. She realizes that the new life she expected is not as easy as she thought. Her two children, especially her eldest daughter, began to show signs of unease. Marigold feared that they might know or remember the conversation she had with Caspian about the plan to kill Orion. Her anxiety gradually turns to panic, and she begins to believe that the two children could pose a threat to the future she and Caspian are trying to build. Marigold felt trapped. She could not live freely and enjoy a life of luxury with Caspian while still being responsible for two children. The tension builds, and she realizes that in order to protect herself and keep her crime a secret, she must eliminate both her children. It was the crews who were fast asleep. Marigold decided to take action. She went into her two children's room, carrying thick blankets for each child. She covered their mouths and noses with the blankets until they stopped breathing. The eldest daughter tried to resist, but Marigold, in her panic, used all her strength to ensure that none of the children survived. She carried out this cruel act with hands that once held and loved them, but now transformed into hands of destruction. After killing her children, Marigold calls Caspian, asking him to come pick her up. Caspian, though not directly involved in Orion's murder, did not hesitate to continue assisting Marigold in this cruel act. They make plans to leave Los Angeles, immediately believing that escaping the city will help them avoid suspicion and start over somewhere else, where they can live the life they've always wanted. The next morning, on March 21st, 1996, a neighbor living near Marigold Fairfax home sensed something unusual. The night before, she had heard a car pull up in front of Marigold's house around midnight. Although it wasn't loud in a quiet residential area, such unusual noises at such a late hour alerted the neighbors. When she stepped outside to look, she saw that the car had left, but noticed something strange. Marigold's door was locked from the outside. This made her start to suspect that something was wrong. The neighbor continued to watch, but saw no signs of life in the house throughout the morning. No one came or went, and the house was eerily quiet. Although she had seen Marigold acting strangely in recent weeks, the eerie silence of the house made her decide to take action. The neighbor did not hesitate any longer. She immediately called the police to request an inspection of the situation. Police arrived quickly. When they arrived, Marigold's door was still locked from the outside, the first sign of something unusual. There was no sign of anyone else in the house, and after receiving information from a neighbor about a strange car that had appeared the night before, they decided to break down the door to get inside. When the police entered, they immediately sensed a tense and oppressive atmosphere in the house. They entered the children's bedroom and immediately discovered the horrific tragedy. Both of Marigold's children were dead, lying on their beds, with signs of asphyxiation. Marks on their bodies clearly indicated that they had been killed by strangulation. A deathly silence fell over the house, and the police immediately understood that they were dealing with something much more serious than a simple robbery. Immediately after discovering the two children dead, the police immediately sealed off the scene and launched an urgent investigation. They collected evidence from the scene, examining every detail that could lead to the cause of death, but the most obvious sign was that there was no trace of external intrusion, and the fact that the door was locked from the outside made them suspect that the culprit was a family member with Marigold Fairfax and her lover Caspian Whitaker. Absent from the scene, police began an immediate manhunt for the couple. During the investigation, the police discovered many important clues. The secret conversations between Marigold and Caspian, changes in Marigold's recent behavior, and Caspian's unusual wealth gradually became clearer. They learned that Marigold and Caspian had a sexual relationship, and that this relationship may have been the motive behind the murder of Orion Walker and his two children. From initial clues, the police traced that the couple had tried to go into hiding after committing their brutal crime. After just a few days of searching, the police caught Marigold and Caspian's trail. As they were trying to cross the border out of the country, the two moved from place to place, avoiding the police, but were ultimately unable to escape. When they were caught, Marigold and Caspian were on their way out of the country, planning to leave everything behind and start a new life. Both were taken to the police station for questioning. At first, Marigold tried to stay calm and denied any involvement in the murder. She continued to play the role of the pitiful mother, but the constant questioning from the police, along with the mounting evidence, gradually caused her to lose control. The traces of the staged robbery, the locking of the door from the outside, and the absence of both Marigold and Caspian created an undeniable chain of evidence. After hours of intense interrogation, Marigold finally couldn't take it anymore and began to confess to her crimes. She admitted to killing her husband, Orion Walker, on the night of March 15, 1996. She detailed the plan that had been hatched between her and Caspian, how she had stabbed Orion multiple times while he slept, and then staged the crime to look like a robbery to fool the police. However, Marigold's crimes did not stop there. She went on to confess to killing her two children on the night of March 20th, just 5 days after killing Orion. In her chilling testimony, Marigold explained that she feared that the children might remember or become suspicious of her relationship with Caspian, which could jeopardize her future. With Caspian's encouragement, she decided to kill her children to cover up the evidence and ensure that no one would ever report her crimes. Caspian, though initially trying to conceal his involvement, is unable to deny it when confronted with Marigold's testimony, admitting that he participated in the plan to kill Orion in order to seize his fortune and start a new life with Marigold. Under pressure from interrogation, the two confessed to the entire crime, from planning to kill Orion to killing their two children to cover their tracks. The couple was quickly charged with first-degree murder, with the evidence of the brutality they had committed at trial. Marigold Fairfax and Caspian Whitaker stood in the dock, unable to deny their crimes. The police had gathered enough evidence to show that the two had planned together to brutally murder Orion Walker and then continued the unforgivable act of killing their two innocent children. Faced with undeniable evidence, from traces at the scene, witness statements, to signs of the relationship between Marigold and Caspian, both were forced to confess their guilt. During the trial, the prosecutor exposed the entire evil plot that Marigold and Caspian had orchestrated, from planning to kill Orion to seize the property, to killing the child to cover up the crime. Forensic evidence, along with testimony from neighbors and acquaintances, created a clear picture of the two criminals' motives and actions under great pressure from the court and clear evidence. Marigold and Caspian finally had to admit their guilt. It did not take long for the court to reach its final verdict. Both Marigold and Caspian were sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The verdict was delivered amid the anger and anguish of the courtroom crowd. The community, which once regarded the Walkers as an ideal family, was left in shock as it came to terms with the fact that Marigold, a beloved wife and mother, had ruthlessly murdered her own loved ones. Out of greed and selfishness, the case was closed, but its aftermath left a deep wound in the hearts of the family and the community. Marigold's betrayal, blind ambition, and ruthless actions caused an unending pain, a tragic story of greed and the destruction of family values. Thank you for being with me so far in the video. If you like it, and subscribe to our channel to see more videos. Thank you all.